I'm super excited because we're lining up with Quest Nutrition, and these are people that I've known for a really long time. We've met all the owners of Quest Nutrition, really awesome people, and then our boy Bruce Cardenas has been setting us up with some product for quite some time, and it's great to come together and have them sponsor this podcast. Quest Nutrition has a lot of great products, but the cookies are going to be something that you might want to check out if you feel like you have a sweet tooth like I do. I always need something to look forward to in my day, and I do love eating my meat, and I do love eating some of these foods that are on a ketogenic style diet, but man, sometimes it feels kind of hard if you don't have something to look forward to, and I like to end my day with something sweet, so I'm always grabbing like a Quest bar or a Quest cookie.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have in your house, especially if you have kids, you know, and if you want something sweet, better than having like Snickers bars and Doritos, have some Quest stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And the chips are really delicious. My kids actually like the chips and they like the bars quite a bit. Andrew, what do you got over there, buddy?
Yeah, I was going to say that's how you know something's good is when your kids like it. You know, usually I try to give them something and they end up like, that's healthy. I don't want any of that. Give them a Quest cookie. They don't even know the difference. If you guys want to get in on this, head over to questnutrition.com. At checkout, use Mark's Quest. That's MarksQuest at checkout for 20% off your entire order at questnutrition.com.
You know, I've been on a ketogenic diet for a long ass time, and I've experimented with all kinds of stuff. And even in like the mid 90s, where I started was with these keto strips, which sounds kind of weird because it's this thing that you pee on, and then you see how you registered ketone-wise. I started out with the Body Opus diet many years ago, and I've tried all kinds of stuff. I've tried, you know, pricking the finger and all that. It's inconvenient and stuff. Have you ever messed around with any of this stuff?
I honestly haven't. I've heard of the strips. I've heard of pricking your finger, but I've never ever tested my ketone levels. So like, why would someone want to even test that?
I think because the main reason why you would want to test it, and I'm not a fan of pricking the finger, and some people say, you know, the blood is going to give you more information than the urine and so on. But I really don't think it matters a lot. But I think the reason why you're going to test is because you want to learn about how you feel, and you want to actually know what's going on in your body. So if you get to a stage, you hear people talk about being fat adapted. If you get to a stage where you're producing a good amount of ketones, it will register when you pee on these strips, and you'll be able to say like, okay, that this is probably the reason why I'm feeling a little bit better, because I am producing more ketones. If you don't produce ketones, or it's registering that you're not, you're going to have to make some changes in your nutrition, because you're probably going to feel like crap because you haven't eaten carbohydrates in a couple days, and you're going to start to feel lethargic and kind of lose energy. The ketones can help be a preferred source of energy, especially for your brain. So it can help a lot with clarity. So you're going to want to kind of monitor it. You don't need to like pee on it 5 times a day, and you don't need to like, you know, gather all this research and information on it. It's just nice to know. You're like, okay, well, I'm in a good standing. And then if you cheat on your diet, you can see how your body reacts to all that too.
Nice.
If you have a big old carb meal, you're probably not going to register a lot of ketones. Andrew, where can they find out more about these And plus, I forgot to mention, these are a lot cheaper option than pricking your finger. So and plus it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So if you guys are on a ketogenic diet, don't front and just say you're on a keto diet. Actually get your ketones tested, and you can do so today by going to perfectketo.com/powerproject. Use code powerproject and get 15% off these pea strips and everything else at perfectketo.com.
I think all of us here really, really love meat, but the one person that loves meat more than anybody is Mark. So how much meat have you had this week, Mark?
I don't know. You know, I do eat quite a bit.
Yeah, I know.
Of meat, especially like after I've fasted. I remember one time I came home from the gym and probably just slaughtered like maybe it was a tomahawk ribeye. I think it was gigantic, but you know, I do smash a lot of meat in a given day. What I like about the Piedmontese beef though is a lot of times I have trouble because I do love the fattier meats, and so I still might go over my calories. But with the Piedmontese, I don't know how they do it, but their steaks are a lot leaner, but they're still super tender.
Yeah,
I don't know how they're doing it over there. And then on top of that, they cook faster. How are they doing it over there?
It's crazy. But the thing is, it's so sick for people that are like having to diet and they still want to eat steak and they have to lower their fats or whatever, and they still want to eat that red meat. Well, Piedmontese is perfect because it's not as fat. I don't understand. It's crazy.
You're still getting a nutrient-dense food. You're getting a lot of protein. The other thing that's great about this company, that I think separates it out from a lot of others is the fact that they're giving you a cook guide. And like, I don't know about you, but like, I don't know a lot about cooking, man. I just like throw stuff in a pan a lot of times.
I just put salt and go. But this is actually pretty awesome. You can actually make tasty food.
I'm not too bad with the grill. Andrew, where can people find out more about Piedmontese, and where can they get an awesome deal?
Cool. Yeah, our friends at Piedmontese are hooking you guys up with an insane deal. Head over to Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com and enter promo code Power Project. If you can't spell that, well, maybe it's not for you. Enter that promo code for 25% off your order, along with free 2-day shipping on all orders over $100.
Button going.
Almost ready. Okay. And yep, now we're going.
All right, we're here with Chad. We're at CSA. Chad, what's your last name? This is our first time meeting.
It's Hooker.
Chad Hooker.
Yes.
So you've been working here at CSA for quite some time, and my friend Jesse Burdick, he made me aware of some of the work that you've been doing lately. It seems like you do a lot of work with special needs athletes. Is that right?
Sir. Yes. Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
So I kind of just fell into it, to be quite honest with you. I was teaching the kids CrossFit classes for CSA, and I had a lady come up to me, and she was like, hey, like, do you do personal sessions? And I was like, oh, of course. And she was like, well, it's not really for me. It's for one of my friends, and it's really not for her. It's for one of her kids. Like, would you be willing to work with him? It's like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, oh, he's on the spectrum. And at that point, I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, oh, you know, he has autism. And I was like, oh, like, cool. I bring him in. Let's see what happens. And then it just kind of snowball effect from there. You know, I was doing it for free in the beginning, just kind of helping parents out and kids out. And then it's just a snowball effect into Puzzle Piece Athletics.
Yeah, what you were doing with the athlete that I saw that was in here earlier, the
Jesse.
young man that was in here earlier, Jesse, was really some unbelievable stuff and some unconventional style of training that I haven't really seen before. The movements were similar to things I've seen many other athletes do. You had him on the bike. You had him walking with holding some weights.
Yep.
But what I was observing that was quite different was how much contact that you were kind of making with him.
100%.
And
yeah.
you were, kind of illustrating to him to get on all fours and do like a bear crawl and stuff. Why is some of that necessary? How's it so different in training some of these people?
So everybody on the spectrum is different. You could have someone high on the spectrum. I really hate using that, but high on the spectrum, low on the spectrum. Some could be verbal, some could be nonverbal. With Jesse, he's nonverbal. Let's use selective verbalness, right? So he'll talk, but it's very short words, right? Like yes, happy, no, right? So it'll never give you a full sentence. But with Jesse and people on the spectrum like Jesse, that contact cue that I was using, the hand on the back, or let's say like grabbing his hand and placing it where I want it, or like monkey see, monkey do, like, okay, like here's a bear crawl, here's my hands going down to the ground, like now you go. So that cue works really well with him, which is why I was using that with Jesse, and might not work with somebody else on the spectrum. They could be like verbal, I just be like, hey dude, do a bear crawl, right? And they would go. But with Jesse, it's kind of monkey see, monkey do, and a lot of contact cues for him. Yep. And a lot of positive reinforcement.
I don't want to be offensive with any of my words, so I'm going to try to apologize ahead of time if I say something that doesn't sound right. But I do not deal with these kinds of people, so I don't know anything about it. I don't know like what it's like.
Yeah, people will say like neurodivergent or neurodiverse, and a lot of people just won't like, oh, they have autism. They'll use the neurodiverse or neurodivergent.
And what I was also noticing was you started having Jesse do some pretty cool movements. Like he was doing like box jumps and stuff.
Yeah.
You had him jumping down. You had him jumping on the box. That must have been a process. That must have taken some time to get him to pick up and learn that, right?
Oh, yeah. In the beginning, he wouldn't even step on the box. It was like I would have to step up, and then I would have to like legit like pull him up on the box, right? I would have to keep him close. And then we just started building on that, right? Like I'd give him my hand and he would step up, and I would praise that, right? I'd be like, yes, like that's what I want. Exactly. Right. And then we just built on that to then where I would give him my hand and he would jump on the box like 3 out of 10 times. Right. And then we just keep building on that. And my goal is to have him jumping on that 24-inch box with no hands, right? Like he knows he can do it, instead of, that's why you saw me over there, like kind of stopping him and be like, you can do this. Like when he would get frustrated, he kind of come like real close to me and almost like headbutt. But that's when I stop. I'm like, no, man, like you can do this. You have to believe in yourself. And then just building his confidence for that jump.
He kind of gets mad at you.
Yeah, he gets a little frustrated.
Yeah.
That's why he always goes in for that. Like, it's almost like a headbutt, but then he'll stop and then he'll go in for the hug. But he's just looking for that confirmation, you know.
In dealing with autistic people, like my observation, again, I don't have a huge background on it, but just from having friends, having relatives that have dealt with those situations in the past, sometimes it's hard to get a kid to even eat certain foods. And I recall like a nephew that I had that was just, you know, they would only eat like macaroni and cheese.
Or chicken nuggets and stuff like that.
And the parents, they tried and tried and tried, and people are like, well, why'd you give up, or why'd you give in? And it's not really like it's kind of not right to say gave up. It just gets to be so difficult, and there's so many other things to worry about with someone that has needs like that, right?
Yeah, it's so I run into that issue a lot. A lot of the kids are like, we only like French fries. They only want something crunchy, right? But it's not like a broccoli crunch.
Who can blame them, right?
I love French fries, but it's not like a broccoli crunch, right? It's that French fry. It's that chicken nugget. It's that thing that they're safe with, right? They don't want to delve out. It's really, really hard to get them to start eating like healthier foods, if you will. Have you seen that Netflix special, The Magic Pill?
I have not seen it. I've heard of it.
I believe they follow a family that had 2 girls on the spectrum, and then there was another younger kid that was on the spectrum, and they switched him to a ketogenic diet, and they followed these families around. I think there was someone that had cancer, and then they followed like an Aboriginal tribe from Australia, right? Because they have to, like, they're hunter and gatherers, right? So they have to get their own food, so they're so healthy just because of that. But they switched the families over to a ketogenic diet, and you could see, like, in the beginning, like, these kids just had meltdowns, like super bad meltdowns, right? Like throwing their food across, like, I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to eat this. But they didn't feed them, right? If they didn't eat that food, they didn't eat. So you could see the change, like when they get hungry, they're like, okay, like they would go to that broccoli, they would start cooking it themselves. And you could see over a week to 2 week period that it was just crazy difference. It's a really good documentary.
So they were able to get some improvement with a ketogenic diet.
Yeah, it's huge improvement. And it doesn't necessarily, when you're feeding these kids, it doesn't have to be a ketogenic diet or paleo, right? But just feeding them these healthy foods, you know, trying your best to keep them on that path, you know.
I guess kind of standing your ground and saying this is the option.
Yeah.
And then understanding that they're going to be okay if they don't eat for that particular moment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
I did see that documentary. Now that you started talking more about it, it did hit me like, oh yeah, I did see that. But in the very beginning, like as a parent looking on the outside in, you're just like, whoa, dude, like you need to control your kids. But then it's like, oh wait, no, like they're doing their best.
Yeah.
And then when they do switch the diet over, it's like, dude, it almost brings you to tears to see like the difference in these kids, like just their whole demeanor. And then of course, like seeing the look on their parents being like, oh my gosh, like they're happy, I'm happy. And it's just all because of like switching the diet, something that nobody even wants to think about or nobody wants to talk about.
And it's crazy too, because that the younger kid on the spectrum was nonverbal. It's selective verbalness, right? But at the end, like they would have him, and you know, the speech therapist was working with sentences with him, right? But he started putting these sentences together.
That's where I lost my shit.
Yeah, it was crazy, and and it was because of switching his diet, you know. So food can be huge, you know. But then you pair it with fitness and getting these kids out of the box. You know, so many people put these kids in a box and they're not capable of this, they're not capable of that. You know, you pair the right food with the fitness, and then it's just like, it's a whole new person.
With you personally, working with the clients that you work with, have you first off had the parents switch their children to a ketogenic diet? Is this something that you do, or you don't really mess with?
No, so I don't really push diets to the parents, just because it's extremely hard to get everybody to follow through with that, right? Like, then that the parents are so busy, and that, you know, that making of the food like relies on them, right? Because that child can't make their own food, right? So they have to do that. So that's extremely hard. However, I do have a new coach, Michelle Anderson, that is trying to put together like a Puzzle Piece Athletics nutrition site, right? So if you want to really try that and the parents are on board, then you get like a 3-month or like a 6-month or a 9-month like package, and you stick to that plan, and then as best as you can try and get those kids on a healthy diet, but haven't really delved into it too much yet.
What are some of the major improvements that you've seen in working with some autistic people?
Confidence, huge confidence boost. As soon as they figure out that they can do this, and you keep using that positive praise with them, and it's just insane. Just the confidence goes through the roof. I have a young gentleman, his name is Curtis. And the first day Curtis comes in, we're on the side over there. Doesn't even make it in the gym, right? Comes up to me. It's the first time I'm meeting him. He walks up to the side, and I can see in his face, he's scared shitless, right? He's like, fuck this, I'm not coming into that place. Like, not gonna happen. Can I swear on here?
Yeah, absolutely,
okay.
yeah.
Right, he's like, fuck this, I'm not going in. And he looks at me and he goes, I quit. I didn't even introduce myself to him. Turns around, walks the other direction. His parents look at me and they're like, just give it a second. So I kind of go up to him. I'm like, hey, Curtis, like, you can't quit on a teammate. And he's like, you're my teammate? Like, you're my teammate? And I'm like, yeah, Curtis, like, come on. Like, we don't have to go inside. Like, let's just work out. Let's just work out here, bro. Like, we'll work out to the side. We'll push some sleds, whatever, right? So I think that first day we worked out for like 15 minutes, if that. And they came from Palo Alto. So, yeah, very nice to meet you, Curtis. Like, have a great day. Like, see you next time, teammate. And it took me about a month and a half, maybe 2 months, just to get Curtis to come inside. And I remember the day he came inside, I was standing in the back, and Curtis, like, kind of peeks his head around the corner. And he looks in, and he just, boop, right in. And now Curtis comes in, just telling everybody jokes, like, hey, what's up? Like, giving people high fives, like a whole new person. It's crazy. Yeah, it's really astonishing to see them when they come in, and then see him after, like, 8 months, 9 months of this, and just how much it changes them as people, you know, and not only confidence, but strength and balance and coordination and all that stuff that comes along with it, you know. So it's really impressive. It's a cool thing to witness. It really is.
What gave you the experience to work with the children the way you do? Because you just mentioned that story with Curtis, right? And then you also mentioned like some Manav or something. Manav,
yeah.
Right? Which was amazing. You can tell that again. But what have you learned that's allowed you to like use all of these very specific things with all of these different kids who have different needs all around?
You know, to be quite honest with you, it just kind of came natural to me. Like, it just that connection with this group just came natural. It wasn't, I never went to school with it for it. I never did anything. I didn't have anybody in my life growing up that was on the spectrum. You know, I knew some people in school that were on the spectrum, but never, you know, I never went out of my way to help them or do anything, right? So it just really came natural, and the cues that I use, I've picked up over the years, right? Like, I know what works with them for a certain group, right? And I know what doesn't. So everything that doesn't, I kind of push to the side, and then everything that works, I just keep growing. I keep using those cues, and what might work for somebody might not work for the other person, because everybody on the spectrum is different. So you kind of have to build a connection with that athlete and figure out what works for them. And that's another huge thing, is like that lock and key, that connection with the athlete. Like, if they don't feel connected with you, it's not going to happen. Yeah, you got to have that connection right off the bat. So with like the first session, second session, third session, I'm not really like giving them anything, right? It's just like just trying to get them to be my friend and just building that connection. And then once you have that connection, it's off.
Do you maybe have to go into like little kid mode? Like, you got to almost be like 6 or 7 years old
sometimes,
kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to say get down to their level, but yeah, you just kind of got to open up and let them kind of see who you are, you know, like, yeah, I'm not here to put you down. I'm not here for you to do bad. I'm here to build you. Like, I'm here to be your friend. This, you know, if you're verbal and you can talk to me, like, great, let's have a conversation like we're real people. I don't treat you like anybody like different. Like, I treat you like a human. You're a human. Let's do this, you know?
Do you think sometimes this is doing more for you than it is for them?
Oh,
like,
my gosh.
Like it must
sure.
be so uplifting, and it must, I'm sure it's frustrating too at times. Yeah. But it must be doing a lot for you. Huh?
It's, you know, I keep talking about growing their confidence, but it's the other way around. I was so shy, like, would never be able to sit here and talk to you like this or get in front of cameras or anything. Like, now it's just like, oh, I don't care. You know, I've had worse. Like, this isn't bad, but it's really built my confidence. It's truly changed me as a person, and it's opened up my eyes to a whole new world. Break out in that Aladdin song.
It's an interesting thing, because I think that this is like something you could, you know, somebody asks you at a party, you know, you're at a family gathering for the holidays or something, and someone, you know, hey, you know, what do you do? Hey, you know, and you talk about what you do, it's like, who doesn't want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that sounds fascinating. How does that all work? How did you get into it? Right? They're going to ask you a lot of questions and be super fascinated. What has been kind of the worst of it? Like, what's been the worst part of it? Because it does seem like, I mean, man, you better be loaded up with a lot of patience.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of patience. There is no worst part of it, to be quite honest with you. It keeps me engaged. Every day's different. It's like you said, it's very uplifting. However, there are challenges. Like some could be violent, some could bite, some could scratch, some
you've had stuff like that happen?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So you just kind of have to go into this knowing that that's going to happen. And hey, if you get punched in the face, you get punched in the face, and you kind of move on. But you try and correct that. I don't want to say bad behavior, but you try and correct that in a positive way, right? To not make them feel like they're doing anything wrong. Like, correct it in a positive way and let's
try to figure out where did that come from.
Exactly. Yeah. And it could happen at any given moment. Like someone could be just totally chill, and then all of a sudden it just switches. I can't snap with my left hand. it just switches, right? So you kind of have to be wary about that. But most of the time when you get these kids in here and these adults in here, this is their place to get that out, right? So luckily I don't have too many issues, right? Everything goes pretty chill. They come in, they have a good time, we work, and then that's it.
It probably helps a lot to have like a new energy for them, right? Like, so they're with their parents or they're with a caretaker or whomever they're with. Maybe they're at school, and maybe just over time, maybe this stuff kind of wears some people out. Maybe mom and dad, like, it's sad, but I think this happens to people. Maybe just getting worn down. It's just, and then if you have other children too, I can only imagine the pressures and how hard it would be. And so now you drop the kid off here.
You get that hour break.
Yeah, they get right. The parent gets the hour break. It's now the kid's with somebody who's super excited to see them every day.
Yeah, for sure. And the kids pick up on that too. But yeah, it's huge for the parents. They get to bring them in. They get to drop them off. You go get your coffee. Go to the store. Like an hour. And I don't have any kids yet. One on the way. But that hour's got to feel like 5 to 6 hours. That's your break, and everybody needs that. So it's very good for the parents too. Yeah.
I think because you were mentioning before too, a lot of trainers, kind of avoid working with children with these needs, right? Now, for a lot of the trainers that are listening, they probably know someone that they could potentially work with. What do they need to be thinking about before taking an individual on? Because like you mentioned, they all have different needs. They're all individual. One thing doesn't necessarily work with the other. So how can someone build, I guess, the empathy and the understanding to do that?
First off, if you are a coach and you're thinking about taking on clients like that, you better have a lot of patience. I say that's number one. If you don't have patience and you're not compassionate, don't do it. Like, this is not the thing for you to take on, right? That's huge. And I would honestly say that's the biggest thing. If you're compassionate, if you have patience, and you're willing to take on new challenges, that's all you need. Yeah, I think that's over half the battle right there. You can, once you start taking on these clients, you can kind of figure out what works for one, and then you have another one, you can figure out what works for them, and then you can kind of build on that until you've worked with generally everybody on the spectrum, right? And you can kind of, I don't want to say put them in groups, but you can kind of like generalize the way that they interact, right? And you can use those cues for the different interactions.
These people that are coming to you, it must matter, right? Like how they feel about their fitness. It must matter how they feel about their bodies. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have such a marked improvement in their confidence, right? And so I think sometimes, as you said, sometimes people put put limitations on people.
100%.
And they say, oh, maybe that's the last thing that family or that kid needs to worry about. But we all need to worry about our health. We all need to be conscious. It'd probably help all of us if we're able to lose a little bit of body fat, or be able to do something that we thought before that we couldn't do. That's got to have a huge impact on their lives.
Yeah, it truly does. But most of these kids, and and it's sad to say, but most of them don't want to go out, right? They want to sit on that iPad, or they're so,
and that's what they're used to, though, right?
They're so prone to that TV. Like when they get home, they're like, TV, iPad, and then they sit there hunched over looking at this iPad for hours. It could be legit hours, and then having them come in here and kind of break that habit, getting them to see that there's something else that can kind of keep them motivated, getting them out, like just almost into a real world situation's huge.
It's a really sad thing, because you would think, oh, well, why don't these parents just pull those electronics away from the kid? It's like you try to do that at like 3 or 4, you try to pull it away from it, and the kid goes absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's like a different level than maybe your average parent deals with. And then it's nonstop. It's like they're not going to slow down from it, and so you'd have to just be a saint and have a crazy amount of patience to be able to handle that.
Yeah, that would be extremely tough to deal with. And how do you, as a parent, how do you take something away from your kid that they enjoy so much? Like,
you don't want to hear them crying and screaming.
That would be hard for me, because then you feel bad for them, and then you're like, man, how do I take care of this without making them feel bad? And I give it up to the parents, man. That's got to be extremely hard. But kudos to them, and all of them do the best that they absolutely can. And I'm just running my program to help everybody out. Trying to change the mindset of people on the spectrum and fitness, and really trying to change the world with that, because not very many people are doing it.
I don't want to use the word guilty, but do you maybe have a hard time, or I don't know, just find it difficult when somebody comes up and they're like, Chad, you're such a saint. Oh my gosh, you're doing such good work. And meanwhile, inside you're just like, I'm just doing what I love to do.
Yeah. And I do. Yeah. It's very hard to take, to hear those words, like, oh, you're doing so well. Like, thank you so much. Like, you are, like, I've gotten that. You're a saint. I'm really not. Like, just like you said, I'm just here. Like, I'm doing what I know I love to do. I just do it. And for me, I'm really lucky that I kind of fell into this, because it has changed me. It has shown me a different part of my life, and how I can help these kids out and build their confidence. And it's very hard to take those words. Yeah, most of the time I just hear it and I'm like, thanks.
Did you ever dream that you'd be capable of like helping people in this way? Because this is like, this is dramatic stuff. This is a big deal.
Yeah, no, I did not. Yeah, when I was younger, I thought I was gonna play professional soccer or go off and travel the world with that, and never happened. Came close, but never happened. But no.
I think you're making a much greater impact with this.
I believe so, and thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I am. Hopefully it just keeps going.
You mentioned that a lot of this has come natural for you. Have you had to, or have you run into situations where you were working with a kid and you just couldn't figure it out, or it just
100%.
didn't work?
Yeah, 100%.
And do you have to just like
switch it on the fly?
You're just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's why like a lot of people ask me, what do you do for your programming? How do you program for these kids? Okay, well, are you ready for this? I don't, because if you write something down, right, and you're in a one-on-one session, and that child or that person comes in and they're not feeling it, right? Something you had was like, okay, like 10 sets of 8 Russian kettlebell swings, right? And then we're going to go into 20 ground to shoulders with a 20-pound medicine ball, and you have it structured out, right? And they come in and they just freaking turn the other way and walk off. And, well, what are you going to do? I can't get your kid to do that, right? So you kind of have to work on the fly, right? Oh, you start running? Great, I'm going to grab your hand and we're going to go on a 400-meter run, right? Okay, cool. You want to go walk? Great. I grab a TheraBand or a Exerband, and I put it over. Great. I'm going to make you walk under tension. Oh, you want to walk? Grab a hip circle. Put the hip circle on. Cool. Let's go on our 400-meter walk, or I make them walk 800 meters with the hip circle. Great. Now you're going to get on the bike with the hip circle constantly. That's a huge thing in my training, by the way.
Yeah, Jesse was telling me that you put a lot of them in the hip circle.
Oh, every single time. If they fit in that hip circle, that's what we're doing, because they like that feeling. They like that tension. They really do. It's like, have you heard of like gravity blankets and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Helps with anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. It weighs them down. They like that feeling. So that kind of mimics that. Not the weighted down part, but the tension on the legs. And then sometimes I'll make them carry a medicine ball with that on, or I'll make them do like farmer's carries. But yeah.
Where should someone start if they have a child that they would love to get more exercise for that fits into this category? Like, are movements where you're kind of carrying stuff, is that a little simpler? Because it's just walking with weights, like a farmer's carry?
Yeah,
or?
and like 2-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're holding something, they're walking. Good. That's good exercise. They're a little bit bigger. They can hold 18s, 26s, whatever that may be. Cool. Get them walking. Oh, you want to try overhead walking with them, right? Their mobility is not very good. They're holding it here. Is it still overhead? Get an ab mat. Make them work locking out their elbows. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. Bear crawls. Simple, right? Put your hands down. Get your knees up off the ground. Okay, now walk on all fours like bear crawl. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. While those movements might be easy, it might be kind of tough to get them to do, which is where the contact cue comes in, which is where the
I saw your hand was on his back the whole time, so he kind of knows where he is in space and all that, right?
Yeah. So finding those cues that work for your children. If you can figure that out, then you're golden.
Yeah, we have a kid in our gym that has struggled with some of the same things your athletes face, and this kid pushes a sled and he carries some weights, but
probably loves it.
Yeah, he does. He absolutely loves it, and he'll run. He'll just like run back and forth on our turf that we have. But something like the sled, I think, is a concept that he's like really gets a lot of pleasure in. He's like, I'm going to push this thing from this side of the gym to that side of the gym, and I'm going to feel strong, and I'm going to feel better about myself.
And it's weighted, and it calms him down, and he feels good doing that. That's perfect. It's huge. Yeah, even the sleds where you put your arms through, the shoulder straps go on and walk. Cool, go. Okay, one without weight. Cool. Here's a 10-pound plate. 45, then 95 or whatever, up to 135, just keep stacking it. Cool. They're moving. Great. Yeah. So the sled pulls and everything are huge.
Yeah. So is it safe to say that like a lot of those things are across the board? Like anybody can try these because it's almost guaranteed to work?
Yes, but there are some folks that will just be like, just look at it and shut down. But yeah, most of the time, sled work, all that stuff, really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but like
high
if we're
percentage.
There you go.
For sure, yes, yeah.
Trying to like mainly get some of the people that you're working with to be able to like run, jump, throw, like kind of the simple things we take for granted.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of that. A lot of ball slams. A lot of my clients will just kind of like...
That's got to feel good. You're just smashing the ground.
Smashing it down. But a lot of my clients will just kind of pick it up, and they'll hold it overhead, and they'll kind of look around, and then they'll just be like... Ugh. And it's just like a little toss, but teaching them that they can actually they can extend their hips when they bring it up, and then they can really slam it down. That might take a lot, but yeah, that's...
You have permission to break this ball.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Smash it in half. Yeah, 100%.
How can people find out more about what you're doing? How can people find out more about you?
You can go to my Instagram and Facebook page, and you can follow just Puzzle Piece Athletics for Facebook, and Instagram is at Puzzle Piece Athletics. I have a website up. It's being redone, but the old one is still up. And you can just follow me and watch kind of my sessions through Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff. And hopefully in the future I start running seminars and trying to figure out if I should franchise and all that good stuff. I've had a lot of outreach from
cool.
all over the world, everywhere in the U.S., Australia, UK, Canada. I mean, everywhere has been reaching out. So it's very, very well needed. Like, unfortunately, autism is growing, right? And it's not stopping anytime soon. It just keeps getting bigger, and it's very sad. But everywhere in the country, everywhere in the world, there's people on the spectrum, and there's not a lot out there, especially when they get to a certain age. They kind of get pushed off the parents' insurance, and then what do you do?
What age category are you usually working with?
So I like to start working with the kids around like age 10 to 11, just so they've had enough like ABA therapy or PRT therapy, and they can kind of stay focused for that hour. I do take on younger clients, and we run half an hour sessions, but they have to be able to stay focused for that half an hour. Yeah.
And then do you work with some older people
I do.
as well?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't answer your question. Yeah, so from that age up into adult. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. You could be 60, 70, whatever. Yep.
Very cool. Well, we love what you're doing, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Keep it going. And, what I saw today, I was just like overwhelmed with seeing what you were doing.
Thank you so much.
Taking that amount of time and having that amount of patience, really, really cool. Somebody's got to be doing this, and I'm glad that I got to witness that firsthand.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah. Where can people find you on Instagram if you haven't said that already?
Puzzle Piece Athletics. Yep.
All
Facebook
right.
and Instagram. Not on Twitter.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you all later.
Thanks, guys.